Hey everybody. All right. So our current progress on the Waddell Williams Red Lion. Again, it's kit number 402 from Dumont. We're at this stage of the build. So I've begun to infill the main part of the cowling. Again, this is essentially what would be the center section of the cowling. All right, we've got the bulkhead 2, bulkhead 1. This is our motor's current status. Scratch build that I'm doing on a Pratt & Whitney Wasp engine. So we've got our oil circulation pump here at the bottom, crankcase here, wiring harness here wrapping the crankcase bell, and then the cylinders wrapped with thread to simulate the cooling fins of the cylinders. I've started to drill out the cylinder heads for the plug wires, and there's that. So that's the current. This is where we stand. Also, I've cut the back panel for the instrument panel, and this is how that turned out. Again, this is just the backing plate for it. This is what everything else will match to. It's like a template, but it's also going to be mounted into the airplane. So what I'll do with this now, and here are the templates. The first template, where I was trying to figure out where to cut away for the combing versus the interior of the airplane. And this is the final template, which had the cutouts where I needed them to be. And our fuselage, which has now had 3 coats of filler, spackle, applied and sanded off, and 2 coats of the deluxe sand and seal sealer, and that's been applied. So you can see we're pretty much where we need to be overall on the fuselage. I think one more light application of filler will get it done to 100% prepped for paint. And again, as soon as that's done, I'll begin to fill out the fuselage, or the cockpit area. We'll do the panel, get that installed, seat, control column, throttle quadrant, and the sidewalls. We'll get the sidewalls in there, just using cardstock for those, get everything painted and then assembled in there. I don't have a pilot yet for this. I may just carve one complete, see how that goes. If I do that, I'll do that with the camera going. But I haven't decided yet. I can't get hold of. I can't make a purchase from Park Flyer Plastics, where they are a great resource for pilots, cowlings, wheel pants, motors, dummy motors, and so forth. Park Flyer Plastics, but for whatever reason, I can't seem to purchase. Can't get that done. So something on their end, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's why I'm scratch building this motor, and why I'll probably end up just carving a pilot figure for the airplane. The canopy is right here. I've still got a little bit more cutting to do on this. The back edge of this needs to be flat. There, so it kind of fits on right about there, with the front end right at this bulkhead here. And then the back edge is cut in a straight line about 1/8 of an inch behind the fuselage line. So back here, we're going to go straight up at about 1/8 of an inch back to cover this rear bulkhead of the cockpit cutout. About 1/8 inch back, and then straight around, straight over the top. So it doesn't have this big sweep back here. The canopy doesn't have that. All right, so we'll get this carved. You see that looks pretty cool on there. She looks pretty sinister for a racing plane when you get her profile all dialed in with the big motor up front, this low profile cut down canopy, and her fastback sort of shape behind the canopy, that fastback kind of configuration. So I've done what I could to round this out. Again, this aircraft's fuselage, like the Air Express, is more or less a torpedo. It kind of reminds, actually, when you look at it, it's like the early Corsair, the F4U-1A, with the birdcage canopy. It had that early Corsair fuselage looked a lot like this. I mean, as the whole time I'm working on this, I can easily see this. This fuselage could easily be used as a birdcage fuselage for a birdcage F4U Corsair early. But that's beside the point. I'm just, that just occurred to me while I was putting it together. But you see, we're trying to get all those nice curves in there, no flat spots. Just like on the Air Express, there were absolutely no flat spots on the fuselage. It was compound curves all the way around. So working on that. The next thing again will be to finish up the cowling, and I'll get it completely infilled, completely sanded, and then I'll apply the cardstock outer skin to it. Get that on there. We'll have the motor finished and complete, put it together, button it up, and then use the filler to really clean up and paint prep and clean up the seam where the plastic joins here to the where the cardstock will be. So that's going to be a real finesse job on that, trying to get that sanded to the cardstock, all flush with the plastic cowling fascia, with the motor installed. Wouldn't be any way to install the motor after the fact. So we've got some tricky paint prep and finish work coming for this cowling. It's going to be interesting how that goes together. Once all that's done, I'll lay up the wing. We'll cut out the tail surfaces. We'll just use the drawing as template, and I'll use the solid 16th material once again. And then and as I did on the Sparrowhawk, I think I call it a Skyhawk in the earlier video, the Sparrowhawk, I'll be putting the 1/32 birch ply as a core for these, and sandwich that with 1/16 on either side. So it'll be a birch ply sandwich with 16th balsa when I make these, and that's to prevent the warpage that we were getting when we were just using balsa. The inexplicable warp that we got. Now, since that happened, it was the vertical fin and rudder on the Sparrowhawk that began to warp. The warp is gone after all the finish work and applying primer and applying paint and applying clear coat. The rudder is now flat and straight, so it just ended up that way. All during the process, all during the while I was making that, working on that project, that thing was warped, and had a little warp and twist to it, and it was just causing a ton of aggravation, which now is gone, because as it turns out, it once it was fully cured and dry, it is flat. But I don't want to take a chance on that again, so I'm going to be putting cores, birch ply cores, in the middle of these layups when I do these out of the solid sheet stock. All right, I want to talk about that. So the tail, the wing will be laid up once the fuselage and cowling are complete. The wing will be laid up and infilled. Then while that's happening, I'll be making these two parts and probably attaching them to the airplane. We'll get them installed at the correct right angles: vertical fin and rudder, horizontal stabilizer, and elevator. Do the little fairings around those with filler, like we did with the Sparrowhawk. Get the just using filler. We'll make sure that there's the small fillets that existed on the prototype on the actual aircraft, and then the wing will be after the wing's infilled. I'll get it smoothed out and prepped for paint. We'll install the wing when it's completely, basically in the same condition as this fuselage, essentially ready to go. We'll get the wing installed, and then I'll have to build up with these stringers in these locations and some short half formers. These here half formers, they go along the bottom of the wing after the wing's installed, and then the stringers go across those from here to here, end to end, and then all of those spaces will have to be infilled and puttied with the spackled, and then sanded smooth, and then that'll have to be brought up to the same condition as the fuselage and the wing. And once that's all done, then I can begin the work of applying primer and then masking and painting the finished colors, the racing white and pure red that I'm going to use. Same two colors as we used on the Air Express. This is the same company logo and paint scheme. The red over a cream white, and I use racing white for the cream white. Right, and then and the landing gear also has to be established as I'm making that lower wing. Yeah, I forgot all about that. So the landing gear has to be established as well. Wheel pants and wheel fairings and all that happy stuff. So still a ton of work. Probably less than a third of the way. I'm definitely less than a third. Probably not even a quarter of the way into this airplane yet. But here it is, and again, work will start on the cockpit fairly soon. Probably as I'm infilling this and prepping this for paint and getting it all established, I'll be working intermittently between that and getting the cockpit ready on the fuselage. So there we are. All right, thanks for viewing, and I'll be back with another video here pretty quick. Thanks, bye.